Hello, everyone. Back with you again. It's Sunday, March the 27th. Racism, colonialism, slavery. Is the royal family guilty? I felt that this was an important topic, and since we're seeing it covered in the news and in the headlines because of Catherine and William being over on their tour, I thought it's haunting them, so I want to go over it, and I want to educate some of the people that are in the squad that don't know their own history. History has a way of repeating itself if it's not viewed correctly, and a lot of people have not taken the time to learn that history, and it's important that we do so. And it's important that each of us that are familiar with it be reminded. This is my disclaimer. All right, and I'm just going to go up and we're going to get started. Going to go over a few things for you. You're familiar with the YouTube channel Mr. Markle has started, and it's called Remarkable Friendship. Well, I did hear back from Mr. Larson because I did go on the channel and ask him for a possibility of interviewing Mr. Markle, and he responded and was very nice about it. Said, thank you, Teresa, for your message. We are currently trying to get our channel off the ground. We won't be doing any interviews anytime soon. I did check out your channel, though, and will subscribe. Perhaps if you have any questions or a question or two, I will try to get Thomas to answer the question for you. Best regards. So I'm trying to narrow down because I've got a ton of questions, but I thought that was very nice that he said that. So I think we were all under the impression when he mentioned the other channels that he was wanting to get together with them and an interview with them, but I guess that was kind of misunderstood and misinterpreted by many of us, but he was talking about those are some of the ones that he had seen and that he thought he would give it a try himself because he kind of watched them to see how they go about doing it. So moving on. One of the squad members who has their own YouTube channel just had this meme up, and I thought, and I won't go into their video, and I blocked the top of it down, but you can see they have Will, Kate, Harry, and Meghan. And it says, oh, they're trying hard to be Harry and Meghan. They can tell themselves that all day long, but Harry and Meghan came after, and they didn't. And Catherine and William, they didn't need to copy anyone. They're the true originals. If you want to go support one of our new channels, her name is Angela Drummond, and she is Scottish. We can show her some love on her channel, and she's only done a couple now, and it is hard when you get started, and it's hard to find followers and until you get people watching your video and leaving a comment and giving you a thumbs up. So I'm supporting all the new channels that are out there and doing my best to watch all of theirs. So as I'm doing everything at home or wherever I'm at in the car, I'm trying to listen to all the channels because I want to support them. This was my question to Lady C, and I haven't had a chance to catch up on hers in the last day or so because I've been so busy, but I'll tell you a question that and what I had left for her. So I hope that she will answer it. Okay. Hello, Lady C. I watch every video and love hearing your thoughts and opinions. I just can't believe what is happening to our free speech. We have to speak out to keep our First Amendment rights. Harry needs to stay out of this as he is not even a citizen of our country. I know Harry is almost 40, but Prince Charles needs to at least issue a statement that he is disappointed in Harry and Meghan's behavior. They should demand their titles not be used, remove them from official websites, and as Counselor of State. Prince Charles needs to understand his people and that the majority of people worldwide are beyond the point of tolerance. I think we've all felt this. Hold his son Harry accountable for once in his life and stop walking on eggshells because they're afraid Harry will put something in his book, because we know he's going to do it anyway. Lastly, the allegedly paid for Sussex squad appear to be involved in the uproar of people lashing out and protesting visits by the members of the royal family. They need to be seen publicly as trying to put a stop to Harry and Meghan and their team's antics. The Sussex squad actively makes threats about the royal family, as well as journalists and YouTubers who criticize Harry and Meghan's bad behavior. People are losing faith and respect for the royal family by their lack of action or public statements on these topics. Times have changed, and something needs to be done. Do you think it's time something more is done publicly? Thank you for giving your time to us. Much love and respect. There's been so many times I've been so frustrated at the royal family not wanting to speak out. But I think they've got to put some kind of statement out there, because I think the more this goes on, and it's not going to stop. We can see that very clearly. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I would think with the attacks that occurred during this tour, I can't imagine how Prince William and Duchess Catherine must have felt. And we'll get into that more in just a minute. So I'll keep my fingers crossed, and I hope Lady C will answer my question. On the tour, the Duke and Duchess believes is home to the second largest barrier reef in the world. They had a chance to go scuba diving, and that's Prince William and Duchess Catherine. I know they had a great time. I'm a certified scuba diver as well, and don't get to do it very often, but I loved it. There's nothing like it. Ocean Girl said on social media, and she posted news.com.au, entertainment, coincidence that at YouTube appears to be taking down YouTube's accounts linked to Markle versus Markle court case. These accounts were praised by Thomas Markle, who wants to defend his daughter Samantha against defamatory allegations. So it's right as all of this is coming up, because they know that we're going to be speaking about it, and they're doing all of these press releases and putting everything out there to make it look like Meghan's got this super case, and that Samantha's a bad person and just doing this all for money and attention. Well, that's not the case. She's doing it because she has a legal right to do it, because what they've done to her is wrong. The Daily Mail has Prince William and Catherine on the front, Diamond Duchess, and a close encounter with Jaws. And that was from Empress 7. The Metro, Daily Express, got Catherine, Kate Scuba-Doo, and Kate and Wills go diving with sharks. Don't worry, they don't bite. All right, this is what one of my viewers said on, I don't know if it was the last video or 2 videos ago, but I thought this was, I just thought I wanted to share it with you all, because it really touched me, and you can just hear the passion in her voice. And also for Yankee. My view of Harry and his wife and Yankee being removed. Nope, not interested in hearing anything Harry says or his side of anything until he starts behaving properly. Since the Yankee Wally shut down, my resolve has become more set, and we'll say Sue Smith as well. It was that bridge too far for me where the line was crossed for freedom of speech. Harry and his wife can speak all they like. I don't listen. They can moan all they like. Not listening and not interested. Their team has crossed the line by removing someone's freedom of speech. So as far as I am concerned, I am not interested in Meghan's freedom of speech. Anything they appear in, not watching. Nope, not interested. Anything they are involved in, I will not watch, or I will unsub from, etc. I will only listen to those pointing out their faults now, as it is not hate speech. None of these people are closing down the Sussex speech, just pointing out bad behavior. In fact, it's gone one step further for me. Now I shall support William and Catherine in any way possible. Now I'm watching anything that I can find out about them and voicing my full support for them, even though I am not a royalist. I will pick which true royals I like to support, and I will with them, and I will praise them like Sophie and Edward, and I will support the Queen by now watching the memorial service and Jubilee events, which before weren't really of interest to me. If the royals I like visit my country. I will now express my support now rather than indifference. That way I can stand up for freedom of speech and show my contempt for those trying to remove some people's freedom of speech. If a video I watch from those pointing out the bad behavior has footage of Harry and his wife speaking, I will fast forward till it's back to the person speaking and will in that way deny their voice in the same way that they have denied others. And she knows who she is, and I purposely covered her name because I don't want anybody attacking her. But that made me feel so good, and I could just feel the passion in her voice. And I thought, if the Sussex Squad and Harry and Meghan, what they're doing, if they think this is going to stop people and make us go away, well, you can tell by my viewers' comment that she is going to care more about the monarchy, and she is going to offer her support instead of indifference. Meghan and Harry, dragged over the coals by John Sargent, should never hear from them. John Sargent, a former chief political correspondent at the BBC, slammed the Sussexes as just awful and lambasted them for the damage they have done. Mr. Sargent went on to argue, we should never hear from that couple ever again. Mr. Wooten said he was on GB News with Dan Wooten and interjected to say he believes the Sussexes have been treated fairly, and he argued that the royal family had laid out the red carpet for them. Mr. Wooten said they weren't treated unfairly. The royal family laid out the red carpet for this couple, and they gave them everything they wanted. They allowed her and her mother to go to Sandringham as just the girlfriend of Harry and not his, and she wasn't his wife. Kate dated William for all those years, and she never had that invitation extended to her. They were very gracious to her and did everything they could to welcome her into the family. She just didn't want to play by the rules because they weren't her rules. Prince William lays bare personal highlight of Royal Caribbean tour. Two heroes of mine. Prince William has condemned slavery in a speech in Jamaica, while there are concerns that accusations made by the Duchess of Sussex about racism in the royal family may have encouraged Republican sentiment in the region. The Jamaican government has also made it clear that it intends to follow the example of Barbados and become a republic, which is perfectly fine. If they no longer feel they're benefiting from being a part of the Commonwealth, then that's all well and good. William and Kate were sent there by the Queen. They were doing their job. So I want us to talk about some things that are in my thumbnail. When and where did slavery begin? Slavery operated in the first civilizations, such as Sumer in Mesopotamia, which dates back as far as 3500 BC or before Christ. Slavery features in Mesopotamia Code of Hammurabi in 1860 BCE, which refers to it as an established institution. Slavery was widespread in the ancient world. Come here, sweetie. I just got to pick up one of my little dogs. I'm sorry. There you go, love. Okay. The early when did American slavery start in England? The early African companies developed English trade and trade routes in the 16th and 17th century. But it was not until the opening up of Africa and the slave trade to all English merchants in 1698 that Britain began to become dominant. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. How did slavery start in Britain? Historically, Britons were enslaved in large numbers, typically by rich merchants and warlords who exported indigenous slaves from pre-Roman times and by foreign invaders from the Roman Empire during the Roman conquest of Britain. Who ended slavery in Britain? 3 years later, on March the 25th, 1807, King George III signed into law the Act for the Abolition of Slave Trade, banning trading in enslaved people, the British Empire. Today, August the 23rd, is known as International Day for the remembrance of the slave trade and its abolition. Who started slavery in Africa? This is, let me go on, I'm sorry. The transatlantic slave trade began during the 15th century when Portugal and subsequently other European kingdoms were finally able to expand overseas and reach Africa. The Portuguese first began to kidnap people from the west coast of Africa and to take those they enslaved back to Europe. How much did Britain pay to free the slaves? This is a little known fact. 20 million pounds. But this was a long time ago. What did we say? It was 1833, I think. So, 20 million pounds back in the 1800s. Less well known, however, is the enormous, and see, they're talking about reparations and, you need to pay us for this. They were made. Less well known, however, is the enormous cost of this decision for the taxpayer. The British government spent 20 million pounds, a staggering 40% of its budget back in 1833, to buy freedom for the slaves. That's equivalent to approximately 20 billion pounds today, making it one of the biggest ever government bailouts. You're going to be surprised to hear this. Top 10 countries with the highest prevalence of modern slavery by total number of slaves. So I've given you Britain's history. Now we're going to see what's going on right now. And this is as of 2022. It'll blow your mind. Nope, sorry, this is as of 2018, but it's the newest that I can find. India, 7.9 million people are currently enslaved. China, 3.9 million people. North Korea, 2.6 million. Nigeria, 1.4 million. Iran, 1.3 million. Indonesia, 1.2 million. The Congo, or Democratic Republic of, 1,045,000. Russia, 794,000. This is today, people. So while we have a certain group of people that want reparations for what happened over 400 years ago, look at the people that are still enslaved today, people. And I'm going to talk more about that. Slavery is a system in which principles of property law are applied to people, enabling individuals to own, buy, and sell other individuals, designated slaves, as a form of property. Slaves are unable to withdraw from this arrangement and are typically forced to work for little to no pay. Slavery has played a role in the history of nearly every country on earth and remains a massive problem in many places around the globe. What is modern slavery today, and how is it prevalent? How prevalent is it? Today, 167 countries still have some form of modern slavery, which affects an estimated 46 million people worldwide. Modern slavery can be difficult to detect and recognize in many cases. This is because slavery has moved underground in most countries and because the definition of slavery has expanded and evolved over the past several decades. Sussex Squad, I hope you're listening. For example, the U.S. Department of State defines modern slavery as the act of recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining a person for compelled labor or commercial sex acts through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. Similarly, a 2017 report from the International Labor Office describes modern slavery as not just laborers owned by other people, but also forced marriages, state-imposed forced labor, and victims of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. Top 10 countries with the highest prevalence of modern slavery. These are different countries now because we're going by the total number of slaves. So this global slavery index is as of 2018, so it's gone up. So you're going to see different countries. India, Might as well round it up, 8 million. China, 3.9 million. North Korea, 2.6. Now, this is per every, by total number of slaves. North Korea, 2.6. Nigeria, 1.4. Iran, 1.3. Indonesia, 1.2. Congo, 1 million. Russia, 794,000. Philippines, 784,000. Afghanistan, 749,000. Think about the people who didn't get out. Top 10 countries by the highest prevalence of modern slavery. This is by slaves per 1,000 residents. You're going to see different ones again. For every 1,000 residents, North Korea has 10%. Eritrea, 9.3. Burundi, 4.0. Central African Republic, 22%. Afghanistan, 2.22%. Mauritania, 2.14. South Sudan, 2.05. Pakistan, 1.68. Cambodia, 1.68. Iran, 1.62. These are the G20 countries as of 2020. The ones in blue are the ones that don't allow it, that we have laws against it. And wherever you see a gray area, that's where people are enslaved. That's all the countries where people are enslaved. Think about how fortunate we are to live where we do right now. Government efforts to combat modern slavery. Many governments and aid organizations have taken steps to raise awareness about the signs of modern slavery. For instance, the United Kingdom passed the Modern Slavery Act in 2015, and at least 6 other G20 countries have passed bills aimed at combating slavery in recent years. Additionally, the United Nations has designated December the 2nd as the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. Now, this is a research article that was done in 1995, and this is a professor, and they are in Ghana. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read out some important facts, because this talks about where slavery originated and how many Africans still to this day are not aware that they were the ones that sold their own people, and that they still do it today. Cape Coast, Ghana. For centuries along the West African coast, millions of Africans were sold into slavery, and they were shipped across the Atlantic to the Americas. The middlemen were European slave traders based in forts like Ghana, Cape Coast, Castle, now a tourist attraction and a somber reminder of a brutal crime against humanity. That crime is usually blamed entirely on the European outsiders who inflicted slavery on the African victims. But, new research by some African scholars supports a different view, that Africans should share the blame for slavery. It was the Africans themselves who were enslaving their fellow Africans, sending them to the coast to be shipped outside, says researcher, and I can't say their name, but it was from the University of Ghana. Based on her studies, she says that European slave traders, almost without exception, did not themselves capture the slaves. They were brought to them by other Africans, usually the kings or the chiefs of these Africans, and wealthy merchants were brought to the Europeans. They sold their own people. The question is, why did Africans sell their own people? For 1,000 years before Europeans arrived in Africa, slaves were commonly sold and taken by caravans north across from the Sahara. Slavery did exist in Africa, says Irene of the University of Ghana. Can't say her last name, I'm sorry. In many African cultures, slavery was an accepted domestic practice because It was slavery of a different kind. In Africa, the slave usually had rights, protection under the law, and social mobility. Many house owners would call their slaves as their daughters or their sons. They became part of a kin or family or lineage of the owners. The Atlantic slave trade grew at a time when many African states were at war with each other, taking prisoners that could easily be sold to traders in exchange for guns. So Africans sold their own African people because of the fights in between their own people, and they did it for guns. It's the gun which was a deciding factor in the slave trade introduced by Europe, says this professor. It's so small I can barely read it. Now, we're going to go through quickly now. The Wall Street Journal wrote, when the slave traders were African. So they're talking about Africans trading their own. Those whose ancestors sold slaves to Europeans now struggle to come to terms with painful legacy. Many of black people that I'm aware of that we've had this discussion with were not even aware that their own people did this. You see, they're not taught history anymore. They want critical race theory. They want to change what our history truly is and hide the truth and divide us by our race. And that's what is happening in a political sense as well with the woke crowd. They really want to hold people back and keep them on funding and keep them down, but they throw all these programs at them so that they get addicted to it and they never get off the programs to advance themselves. The anguished debate over slavery in the U.S. is often silent on the role that Africans played. That silence is echoed in many African countries where there's hardly any national discussion or acknowledgement of the issue. From nursery school throughout university in Nigeria, this professor said, I was taught about great African cultures and conquerors of times past, but I wasn't taught about African involvement in the slave trade. In an attempt to reclaim some of the dignity that we had lost during colonialisms, Africans have tended to magnify stories of a glorious past of rich traditions and brave achievement, but they didn't talk about they participated and sold their own people. What is the meaning of British colonialism? British English colonialism is the practice by which a powerful country directly controls less powerful countries and uses their resources to increase its own power and wealth. Well, some people would say that's the downside to it, but there's also an upside, and there's many of these colonies that wouldn't exist today had it not been for them being a part of the Commonwealth, and I'll go into some of those things. And while we know that Jamaica wants to leave the Commonwealth now, and that's perfectly fine, Queen has no problem with it, what they don't understand is they wouldn't be where they are today if they hadn't been a part of that Commonwealth. They wouldn't have the resources and be struggling the way, they wouldn't be profiting the way they were without. I'm sorry, got tongue-tied. What are the positive effects of colonialism? Better home and health and education. Colonial powers introduced Western schools and health care, resources that often had a positive effect on the lives of the colonized people. Government schools typically focused on training for low-level civil service occupations. So they taught them a trade. They sent them to school. They taught them how to read and write. They taught them how to do a skilled labor job so that they could provide for themselves and their family and be self-sufficient. So those are the positives. What were three positive effects of it? European colonialism in Africa brings a positive impact, such as religious can be used as a spiritual basis for African society, build a school for education of African children, hospital for better health of Africans, society, as well as economic field. European build markets. Some of the negative impacts, because of course there's always going to be negatives, are that, and people feel that associated with colonialism or colonialization include degradation of natural resources, capitalist urbanization, introduction of foreign disease to livestock and humans, because, different diseases are brought back and forth, different countries. Same thing happens to our country. They come into us and to you all from other countries. So I don't know how you can get around that. Change of the social systems of living. Nevertheless, colonialism too impacted positively on the economies and social system. It's up to the people who live in these colonies what they want to do. They may feel like it's not right for them anymore, and that's their choice. Nobody's denying that. Now I want to talk about racism. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or is marginalized. Now, I want to talk about this. What bothers me is there are many people of color that think racism only occurs to black or people of colors, African Americans. Racism can occur to any of the marginalized or people that are in a minority, and that means by the number of people. And I'm going to give you some pie chart examples. You can have people that are racist against Asians, Hispanics, Latinos, just a number of people. Some people are racist against people that are Irish or people that are Italian. So it's not just of one color. And that's what I think the Sussex Squad, they pick and choose what they want to use and what they want to say without understanding what they're really talking about. The belief that different races possesses distinct characteristics, abilities, or qualities, especially so as to distinguish them as inferior or superior to one another. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're looking at an all-white person, and then you're comparing them to a person that is African American. You notice there's a difference in the hair texture. You notice that our facial features will sometimes be different. The size of our bodies may be different, but we're still all human beings. Catherine and William on their tour. I love this green dress on her. But these two had to go to a dinner in Jamaica. And William, because of a few protesters, which Sussex and other people were putting out, and certain journalists were feeding a frenzy, acting as if there were uprisings everywhere and many protests, where there wasn't. There were a select few, but they gave those select few a lot of attention. But because of this, William had to prepare a speech and talk about it. I can't imagine how he must have felt. He's there knowing it'll be a last visit, knowing that Jamaica wants to be away from the Commonwealth and have their own democracy. He went because Her Majesty the Queen asked for Duchess Catherine and Prince William to go. Is this justice? I don't think so. Then you have Whoopi Goldberg, who is on a show of woke women called The View. And when I say woke, I don't want to offend anybody if you're woke or if you agree with a political party that I don't agree with. We can all agree to disagree. I don't have a problem with that. So I don't want to be misunderstood. But Whoopi Goldberg recently had something that occurred to her. But it says, Whoopi Goldberg says the royal family should apologize for slavery. Whoopi was on her show one day, and they were talking, and this was recently, they were talking about the Holocaust people, and people, the Jewish people who were affected by that, and the Polish people, Hungarian people of Jewish faith. Somebody mentioned something about racism, and Whoopi struck back and said, that's not racism. They don't suffer racism. That's not what racism is. Here's a comedian and a talk show host who didn't herself understand what racism was. Well, there was a huge outcry, and they got tons of calls, And when they did, they were all complaining about Whoopi. And it was a lot of Jewish people or people who had ancestors that lived through or died from the Holocaust. And it is the whole thing that the Germans didn't like the Jews is they showed racism against us. Do you think they liked them and sent them to the gas chambers and sent them to concentration camps? It wasn't because they liked them. They felt they were a superior race to Jewish people. So therefore, they wanted to punish them. And that is racism, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of people and youth today going through school, because when I was teaching, they didn't understand this. You see a lot of books that are going in, and you can thank George Soros and certain people from trying to change our books, that it doesn't say the true history because they only want you to know what they want you to know. Just like the Africans told stories of all these wonderful chiefs and things. They didn't want to talk about them selling their own people because, well, that wasn't a pretty picture. We mustn't do that. But anyway, I'll go back and tell you one little thing. Sorry, because I got a little angry. My dog was barking. He's like, Mom. So anyway, she was suspended from her show. I was told to take some time off and that, and then to kind of do some reflection. Well, she went on a talk show and then, or come back and made a statement that was aired on the show. And it wasn't an apology. And she's the one who made the racist statement, and she glossed over it. But that was okay with their executives because they allowed her to come back. Now, on the same talk show, but with the, what was it called? It was Loose Women, I think, that Sharon Osbourne was on, because Sharon Osbourne said that she took up for Piers Morgan and said, I don't think Piers said anything wrong on the show. He has a right to his opinion. He said he didn't believe anything that came out of Meghan Markle's mouth. And she said, and I support that he has that right, that freedom of speech. What happened to her? She was let go off the show. Her contract was canceled. She has a lawsuit against them right now for being wrongfully terminated. But they decided that, even though she said nothing, but she said, I support my friend. That was all she said. She said, we may not agree on everything, but he's my friend, and I support his right to speak his mind and have an opinion. But you see, nothing happened to Whoopi. Take a few days off and then come back. And she's the one who made the actual statement. All right, let's listen to this. Just a minute. The Duke and Duchess plan to meet, I'm rushing through this because it'll take too long, but you can see that they're sitting down to meet with them. Now, here's a small group of protesters, some holding signs, but listen to what she says. You know what? My mistake. Let me go back a little bit.
Leave it behind. It's time.
Here we go.
Young white people now going to be here saying we are going to kowtow to them and we are going to bend and bow and kneel to them as if they are gods. Those days are done. The monarchy is a relic. We should leave it behind. It's time for us to move forward and talk about the democratic process.
If they want to leave the Commonwealth, there's nothing wrong with that. The Queen's not trying to change their mind, and neither are William and Kate by going there. They went there because it was at the request of Her Majesty the Queen. She knew, just like Barbados, that Jamaica had been talking for a year or two about leaving the Commonwealth. Nobody had a problem with that. So why treat these two representatives, Catherine and William, the way that they did, as if they're acting like they want them to bow down to them? That's not at all what they want. My heart broke for Catherine and William. It literally broke that they were subjected to this kind of hate speech, and that's what it is. She's directing her thoughts and hate speech and her belief toward William and Catherine. It's not their fault. They were just coming because they didn't want to leave them out. And they were invited there. All right, let's go on to the next thing. Now, we're going to go on to William's speech.
Particularly with the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. I strongly agree with my father, the Prince of Wales, who said in Barbados last year that the appalling atrocity of slavery forever stains our history. I want to express my profound sorrow. Slavery was abhorrent, and it should never have happened. While the pain runs deep, Jamaica continues to forge its future with determination, courage, and fortitude. The strength and shared sense of purpose of the Jamaican people, represented in your flag and motto, celebrate an invincible spirit. It is this same...
That was what he talked about. And he's not, he shouldn't make an apology for slavery. He wasn't alive then. In fact, it was his relative that abolished it. George III. His relative abolished it. But they're blaming the current day people of the monarchy and saying that it's racism and that they own slaves. They've got misguided anger. They're angry at the wrong people. And part of it is when you have these clickbait articles that go out and talk about all the protesters, all this, all that, when there really wasn't that many, but they give them all their attention because that's going to be the news headline, because that's going to be what everybody wants to tune in about. And then when we saw people, in my own opinion and allegedly, Omid Scobie tweeting out things about this and encouraging it, and certain reporters saying things that got people all hyped up about it, and then a certain squad that was race baiting and putting it out there to get people up and to try to get people. Now, there's people on this squad or that appear to live in all of these countries that are being visited, and it's like they're trying to stir the pot. And it all goes back to Harry and Meghan sitting down with Oprah Winfrey at that interview and saying that the royal family was racist. This is where it started. They're not all to blame. Other people jumped on the bandwagon. But when you have people paid on your staff that is stirring the pot and sending out this propaganda, many people won't see the other side of it, won't see this video. So they will believe what they saw on whatever news or news station that they watched or whatever newspaper that they read the story in. So this is what misinformation is about. Harry says he's against misinformation. He doesn't understand what misinformation is. Misinformation is when you knowingly know that you're saying something that is not true. We're talking the truth. We're talking about accurate information. We're talking about facts and proof of it and the receipts when we can find it. We didn't see any from Harry and Meghan. I want you to know about something else that many people have never even heard this term. Reverse racism. Intolerance or prejudice directed at members of historically dominant racial groups. What does that mean? Historically dominant racial groups. Dominant in this case means people, I would be a dominant, because the majority of people in the world are white. And then I'm going to show you some graphs. So they would say that they would be against me. They're against me is they can show me racism too, and that's what reverse racism is. And people think racism only goes to just the minority, the smaller number of people. Well, I wonder what they think, because it's been predicted that I think 2046, white people will be the minority. And I'm not about color. I'm just giving you facts. And I'm going to show you those facts in just a moment. And I'm going to give you an example. I don't The majority of people do not look at somebody's skin color or their characteristics or features and decide whether or not they like them or don't like them. They just don't do it. We decide on our friends and what our opinions are of other people based on who they are on the inside, based on what they show us, based on their beliefs, their morals, their conduct, their actions, how they treat us, how they treat other people, how they treat their families. That's what we do when we decide if we like someone or we don't like them. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Harry and Meghan. I don't like the things that they do. It's about their behavior. An example, for those that don't know it, there's a gentleman, an actor named Jussie Smollett. A year or so ago, and you can look up his name, he did a reverse racism on white people. This man hired two guys, and I believe they were El Salvadorians or something, but they weren't from our country. And I don't even think they were legally here. He paid them out of his own checkbook, it was proven in court, to pretend to perpetrate a hate crime on him and tie a loosely tied noose around his neck, and I think pretend to beat him up. He really had no injuries. And he called the police and said that two white guys had jumped him and that they were wearing MAGA, which symbolizes Donald Trump's Make America Great Again, red hats. It was proven and the receipt was found. He had them have to go purchase those hats and the sweatshirts that they wore to look like they were Trump supporters. Jussie bought them himself. He came up with the whole crime. Now, he's an actor. He was on, I think, a show, Empire. Of course, he lost his job after this. But he was okay. He was kind of like a Meghan. He wasn't a leading actor. He wasn't the star of it. But he was a member of the cast. I think he did it for attention. He did it to race bait people. So he was sent to jail. He was found guilty, sent to jail. I think he served just under 3 days in there. And he was only going to have to go for 6 months. Only 6 months for doing this. And it caused riots all around the United States. It had BLM coming up. It had people saying that it was racism. And it had people going after Trump. Well, just like there's going to be other things that are going to be proven that were lied about by mainstream media. And then guess who we had go and support him? We had Miss Obama support him. We had Kamala Harris support him. We had Stacey Abrams. And you may not know who all these people are, but let's just say they're in political parties and well known. And they were all saying, oh, this is terrible. Well, they were also friends with the district attorney, I believe, at the area in Chicago. And she wasn't even going to try him. They weren't even going to try him. They weren't going to do anything to the guy. They let him go. And people kept coming up, coming back. And finally, other people had to intervene and say, this guy broke the law. What do you mean you're not going to put him on trial? He wasn't even going to have a trial, people. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much more of that, but I just want to tell you that's how you show reverse racism. He showed racism toward whites and toward people who followed Donald Trump. It happens every day. Now, I know there's racist people out there, and I know that racism is still out there, but it's not prevalent like they say it is, and it can come back on us too. Race. Controversial classification system used to characterize humans on the basis of hereditary physical traits. A race is a characterization of humans based on shared physical or social qualities in groups generally viewed as distinct within a given society. So we all have a race. Each one of us. We're all characterized by that. We're all humans, and it's based on our shared physical features or social qualities into groups. What people don't understand is the difference between ethnicity and race. So we're going to go over those. And I'm not saying that you guys that are listening to this don't understand it. You probably know all of this. but I'm saying it because I hope a certain group of people, and there's white people in that group, as well as African American, as well as others ethnicities that are part of that group. All right, race. Race is about your genetic determinants, your physical characteristics, like my hair, my nose, my ears, the shape of my mouth, the shape of my eyes, my eye color. Ethnicity. It's your common heritage. It's the customs that we have, what we grew up with, what our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents did, the characteristics of us, our language. It could even be the way we speak. It could be our accent. Common history and national origin. Minorities. The smaller number or part, especially a number that is less than half of the whole number. So there's a lot of people that are minorities. It's not just the African Americans, and it's not just whites can be in it because they can be mixed race. They fall into minorities, but there's a lot of other people, and I want to show you some examples. But in the 1990s, the term minority usually refers to four major racial and ethnic groups: African Americans, American Indians and Alaska Natives, Asians and Pacific Islanders, and Hispanics. This transformation of America's racial and ethnic profile is most visible in certain states and communities. Just an example, I'm just using America. Now, this doesn't have a date, it's just a pie chart to give you an idea of what the percentages is, just so I can show you what a minority is. You look at the yellow are blacks or black British. You look at the red, that's white British. You look at the blue over to your left, 24%, that's mixed dual heritage. The green, the bright green, is Asian British. The orange is any other that doesn't fall into these categories. And purple is no ethnicity. I don't even know how you can have people with no ethnicity, but I guess you can. But I'm just showing you this to show you that the minorities would be the purple, the orange, and the green. And but see how close the blue and the red is? And then the yellow? But see, it shows black and British percentage higher than the white and the mixed. So really, according to this, it wouldn't be a minority, but they still they think that certain groups of people think that we're superior or they're inferior to us, which is not the case. People take information out there and they twist it and they turn it and they change a few words, delete a few words, add a few words, and they try to change what's really true. If you think the royal family is racist, then just look at a few of the categories of organizations and the hundreds. I'm not going to show you all. It'll take up too many slides. But they've got them from science, technology, Royal Foundation, professional institutions. They support sports, recreation, healthcare, medical, hospice, faith, environment, architecture, business and industry, arts and cultures, the armed services, animals, children, young people. They have charities for everything. And they also have lots of charities. And I'm just going to show you an example for young, old, elderly, people with disabilities, people that are coming from extreme poverty, the urban areas, the most vulnerable and excluded children and young people and families. The royal family has done more for people than anybody else I know. It's not one foundation. They've got their each, the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, and then Prince Charles has his, that they do even more things with. But they give and give and give and work and serve on boards and go out and visit these charities so that they can bring recognition back to them. It's like being a social media influencer. Let's say you've got Kim Kardashian, and because everybody knows who she is and she's got gazillion followers, she might go on and do a commercial about the type of milk or skincare that she uses, milk she drinks or skincare she uses, or shampoo. Because she has the ability to influence so many people, she might get paid millions for just doing a 15-second ad or commercial or a spot on the social platforms. Because she brings that many people in, people will follow her, watch her, and think, well, Kim uses it. She's got pretty hair. I'm buying that shampoo. So you see what I'm saying? These people have a tremendous amount of influence. Harry and Meghan could have used that influence in so many positive ways and brought so much good to all of these different charities and people around the world and people of color and all of these Commonwealth countries. But she didn't want to do it. That's not what she wanted to do. She wanted to go and have a foundation where she could keep 95% of it and only give 5% away. She wanted to get rich off from it. She didn't want to cut ribbons. She didn't want to follow somebody else's stuffy protocol and wear a hat and wear stockings and do all those things. She made up her mind. I'm independent. I'm my own person. I don't do what anybody tells me to do. I'm going to do it my way. Well, she did it her way, and it became the highway because they were asked to go and take a little break, allegedly, just my own opinion. This is for entertainment only. They were asked to go away, and after they had went away for 6 weeks or so, and then they had talks again, then that's when they decided to come back and say, we're not coming back. We're going to stay. We're going to go to Canada. Stay in Canada. And people wonder why we have a problem with them. I could care less about Meghan and who she is or what she looks like or what color she is or anything. She's got a lot of wonderful attributes and traits about her. She's a beautiful woman. But it's who you are on the inside and what you choose to do. What you choose to do. Your actions. Your decisions. Your behavior. So I want to ask you all this, and this is what I want to know in the comments. Meghan and Harry, you both accused the royal family of being racist, correct? On the Oprah Winfrey Show. And they've had teams of people allegedly go out and say this. So now people around the world saw that interview and know nothing else, haven't bothered to read another article, don't watch YouTube, don't read the newspaper. They just watched Oprah Winfrey because she's world renowned. And they saw her say that. And people will believe her. And especially people of mixed race will believe her. Because a lot of people, even though they don't realize it, they may stick up for somebody that's their same race and choose to believe them or choose to believe the good in them or what they say just because they're the same as me. I could care less. I do my research, I read, I will go out, and I don't care if it comes out of the whitest of white person. Just because they say it doesn't mean I'm going to believe it. Because I'm going to go out and I'm going to look at different places. I'm going to use different means of finding out, well, that doesn't seem true. Let me go look that up. Oh, I read this article, but wait, now there's this article contradicting that. That's the misinformation. The truth is not misinformation. So, you both accused the royal family of being racist, correct? Then give us the examples of the racist things that they did or that they said that made you call them racist. You said you couldn't get help, that you went to people with inside the firm or the institution about your mental health issues, and they said they couldn't help you. Neil Sean said that the royal family pretty much publicly can't find a single person that said that Harry and Meghan went to them. And they talked to everybody and all the people that had already left. They said, if you could just call us, send a message to us, get in touch with our people, and let us know who you talked to so that we can check it out for you. We want to believe you, but we got to investigate it. The reason why they can't let that go is because of privacy rules, because of people that worked in their employment, and also because the royal family has done so much to protect Harry and Meghan. If they go out and tell everybody exactly what happened about the investigation on the bullying and what people said happened to them, they're going to end up destroying themselves. They're not trying to destroy Harry and Meghan. They have been silent. They have been so silent, it makes me mad at times because I want some kind of official statement to be released. Don't expect them to have a sit-down interview, but I expect them to get in touch with them or send some sort of legal document to them to say, you've got to quit saying this stuff because you're giving us no choice. What if they end up having to take legal action against Harry and Meghan like Samantha Markle is doing now? What if they are leaving them with no other choice? It is hurting their brand and their reputation. And does Harry and Meghan think this is helping their brand? No. On one hand, the royal family is racist in their eyes, but we want to come back over and show you our kids. But you're going to have to give us some royal protection, not just while we're there, because we want the IPP, the International Protected Person status. And then that way, we don't have to pay for our security. We can go anywhere in the world and be the most important people, just like diplomats. It's never good enough for them. They want what they can't have. They made the decision to leave. Harry knew and Meghan knew that they were losing their security. That's the government that decides that. It wasn't the Queen. They checked that all out because they had Harry to make a list, and he said that on Oprah, that he made a list of what his demands and what they wanted. And then that way they could check it out. If they didn't know the answer to it, find out how it all worked. And they told them at the Sandringham Summit, you're going to lose your protection. You won't be a working royal. You don't get that same protection anymore. So for Harry to turn around and sue Her Majesty's government, it's like throwing daggers at the royal family. It makes no sense. He is, again, filled with vengeance and wants to make them look bad. He's trying to kill their brand. And he's trying to play the victim. And he and Meghan are playing the race card. So, if you've got proof, Harry and Meghan, do you have the proof that would stand up in a court of law? You said in the Oprah interview you have receipts. Nobody's ever seen them. Why didn't you take them to the Oprah interview? Other people have receipts. They have videos. They have witnesses. But the royal family's protecting you. They're not trying to smear your image. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to attack you. But your grandfather's died, Harry. And I think this was the final blow that just did him in. Queen Elizabeth is going downhill quickly. She's grieving the loss of her husband. She's dealing with these headlines every single day and losing her mobility, and her health is suffering. You've talked about the pain that you feel, Harry, and that your feelings are hurt over this being leaked out there about the protection because it was your attorney that leaked by sending an email, transmit a copy, and we don't know who. But then they also had to admit it to the judge, and the judge said, why would you do it? Oh, we didn't know we did anything wrong. Oh, we're sorry. You know, they didn't even come with an apology ready. And some of the things that were leaked out could harm the royal family. If I remember correctly, what I read was that in the documents transmitted, it talked about the royal family's security protection. So that puts them at risk. They've already had a man with a crossbow go in at Windsor Palace and make it onto the grounds. How do you think these people feel? Your family is scared to death. You might be talking about how scared you are for your family, but you go to a rodeo where they carry guns. You're going over to Hague for the Invictus. You travel to Colorado to play polo out in the open, you know, where somebody could be hiding in the trees. You don't have any special protection there. You'll go other places without it, but you want that IPP status, and this is just allegedly and in my opinion. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank you and for sticking with me for all this long. I just felt that this was an important video, and we're seeing it in the headlines, and I thought, I haven't seen anybody talk about this. I haven't seen anybody put it out there. So I want to contradict those negative headlines and tell you that let's hear the other side of the story. Let's hear what we know to be the truth. Let's ignore the misinformation. Let's do the research. Let's make up our own minds, and let me know in the comments what you all think. I love you all, and thank you. And please, if you don't mind, give me a thumbs up. And just if you don't want to write something in the comments, just throw an emoji in there, and that'll help my algorithms. Thank you for all my new subscribers. I appreciate you so much. I enjoy doing this. I like putting out content to you. I'm open to suggestions. Tell me how I can make this better. If you don't like something I'm doing, I can take criticism because I'm an imperfect person. I make mistakes all the time. But I don't mind. I learn from them. We all do. And I wish we could just have Harry and Meghan learn from theirs. So thank you all. Again, I apologize about the length of this, but I think it's important. It might even be something you can show your grandkids because they're not going to learn it in school, unfortunately. Might be something that you can share with a friend that has no idea what really happened because the story's being covered up and the narrative's being changed in today's woke society. So have a great day. Love you all. Pray for all the people on social media. We pray for you. Pray for the YouTubers. Pray for all of our content creators on the different platforms that put out tremendous content, and for the royal family, and for Ukraine, and for the people around the world. And I even pray for Harry and Meghan. I pray every day that they'll wake up and see the error of their ways, and that they'll work things out with their family, and that they'll apologize and take accountability for their actions. Okay, I'm going to stop. Thank you all. Love you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.